Guys, here's my review for WrestleMania 31, which is not part of my WrestleMania review series, mind you. I have 2 to go in that. That's 29 and 30. But WrestleMania 31 last night was actually a much better show than I think most people thought it was going to be, including me. But sometimes when you have very low expectations, they're very easy to be surpassed. Something that really helps this show in my eyes is, unlike the Royal Rumble, I didn't predict every match right. In fact, I think I only predicted possibly 2 matches around this entire card. So, that helps. It at least takes out WWE being predictable to me. But, really, the only, from top to bottom, it's a fairly good card with the exception of the Diva match. But I'll get to that when I get to the main show. First things first, the kickoff matches. The tag title match was a very good match. Kid and Cesaro versus The New Day versus Los Matadores versus the Usos. Very good match. It was a very fast-paced, very, very, very good match. It did become a cluster near the end, though. So, Kid and Cesaro winning is all well and good. Because honestly, if it was it would have been them or the Usos to me, because I didn't see the other 2 teams getting the tag titles. So, and then the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which now, because it's been on the pre-show, or the kickoff show, means absolutely nothing. It didn't mean anything last year, but it means even less now. Because, Big Show wins, and, apparently they gave it to him because he had never won a Battle Royal in his WWE career, which Andre the Giant was known for. So I kind of get why they did it. But honestly, this was much better if you had it come down to Miz and Mizdow, and then you had Mizdow eliminate Miz. Then you could use that as more of a catalyst to kicking off their feud that they're clearly going to be having than how they did it. If it would have came down to Miz and Mizdow, and then Mizdow eliminating Miz to win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, there's a lot more you could have done with that in terms of, obviously, what they have to do to work with. So now to the main show, which is the only part of this review is going to be, in terms of star ratings and stuff like that, is going to be the main show. The 7 main matches on this card. Which is still too few matches for a 4-hour card, for a 4-hour show. So we kicked off the Intercontinental Championship 7-way ladder match, which I did not predict. Only because, well, I'll go into that. Which I did not predict right. It's Bad News Barrett, Daniel Bryan, Luke Harper, R-Truth, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, and Stardust. Yeah. I thought they were going to return Sheamus in this match for all intents and purposes, or somewhere on this card, but they didn't, and Daniel Bryan wins. Which is all well and good, and hopefully they do have a resurgence of the Intercontinental Championship and actually start caring about it again like they used to. Especially when you had all former Intercontinental Champions congratulate Daniel Bryan in the end. But honestly, unless I see where they're going to go with this, I'm not going to say that the IC title is back to being relevant again or not. Until I see where they're going, it's still as irrelevant as it ever was. But to credit WWE, at least they've made Daniel Bryan a Grand Slam champion, as he's held all the championships that he can possibly challenge for and win. So then we get Randy Orton, Seth Rollins. Oh, the Intercontinental title ladder match, 3 stars. So then we get Randy Orton, Seth Rollins in a okay match. I'm not saying it's bad, it's not great, but it's just seen as some of the stuff they had to do felt a little rushed. I'm giving it 3.5 stars, and an additional half is for the Randy Orton RKO that happened here, because Rollins goes for a curb stomp, and then Orton elevates him into the air and catches him in an RKO. That's a very good RKO finish. Not as good as the shooting star KO they did to Evan Bourne out of the Airborne, which I still think is Randy Orton's best star KO he did has ever done. But this is good. It's 3.5 stars. Orton won, which I think was the absolute right booking decision, especially given what happened later in the night. So 3.5 stars. So then we get to what, in my opinion, is the match of the night: Sting versus Triple H. And yes, I was quite surprised this match went on third, because I thought this match would have at least been right before Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. That's how, if I was structuring this card, it's where I would have put Sting versus Triple H. This is a fun match. I'm giving it 4 stars, actually. I'm giving it 4 stars. It would be 4.5, but I do think that it's overbooked, and I think the wrong guy won in this case. But it's a fun match, seeing the stuff between DX and the NWO, and the fact that all 3 NWO members took a bump. Hogan took one, Nash took one, and Hall took one, which was surprising given Hall's pacemaker. But it was just a fun match, honestly. And I wouldn't even have a problem with the handshake at the end if a segment later didn't happen. Now, I think Sting, first of all, let me say something. Sting looked nothing like he looked in TNA. Sting was very crisp and everything like that. He was very crisp and he was moving much better than he ever did in TNA. He kind of looked like he did, he moved like, it was the Nitro era all over again, back 20 years ago and all that. So, yeah, and he wasn't even wrestling in a t-shirt. He was wrestling in just plain old wrestling tights with no t-shirt on over him. Triple H, of course, won with the sledgehammer. And that's another thing. They apparently made this match a no disqualification match and never told anybody about it. Because the only way to win this match was by pinfall or submission. So I essentially made this an ODQ match. And I guess they did that for the finish. So I think Sting should have won here. To me, there was no reason in bringing Sting in and to have him job to Triple H other than to stroke Vince McMahon's ego and try to stick it one last time to WCW. But that's just my opinion. Still a good match, and I'm not going to take too much away from the match. It's a 4-star match. It's a 4-star match. Best match on this show by a long shot. So then we get the only real bad match in a way. The Bellas versus AJ Lee and Paige, and even that wasn't bad. I'm giving it 1 star because I did like some of the stuff in the match, like how the Bellas were constantly keeping AJ off the apron. That's actually tag team psychology. That's tag team psychology because you're essentially putting one partner against two people, and it makes it a handicap match for a while. That's actually good tag team psychology that the Bellas were doing by doing that. Eventually AJ got in, she made Nikki tap out with the Black Widow, and AJ and Paige win. So that was all well and good. So 1 star there. So then we get to the U.S. Championship match. Rusev versus John Cena. Rusev's entrance was really good, coming in on that tank with the Russian thing and all that. Cena's hype video and all that was very well put together. And I don't even think this match was bad. The only thing that gets me is that Rusev lost to 1 attitude adjustment. I at least think he should have lost to at least 2. I think since Cena broke the Accolade, they should have had Rusev kick out of at least 1 attitude adjustment. So that's a real gripe I have with that. I'm giving this match 2 stars because really it's 2.5 stars, and I do think the wrong guy won ultimately. I think Rusev should have won. Because honestly, I don't think Cena needs the U.S. Championship much, and again, who knows what they're going to do. The only thing I can really think of is after Cena's done with Rusev, they just have him and Bryan face off to unify the U.S. Championship and the IC Championship. I just hope we don't get the Spinner U.S. Championship back out of this. Okay match, 2 stars. Wrong guy won, though, in my honest opinion. And that's not a bash on Cena, by the way. It's just I think Rusev winning at Mania would have meant far more than his career for his career. Even though it's not a match, I'm going to talk about this because I knew this was going to happen when I saw Triple H and Stephanie. We got a 30-minute long Raw segment involving Triple H, Stephanie, The Rock, and Ronda Rousey. At least this was celebrity involvement by a hot celebrity done right. And I guess this is teasing Rock versus Triple H and Stephanie versus Ronda Rousey for WrestleMania 32, or possibly Rock and Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Steph for 32. If it's not, this served no purpose, and you could have put a match there, like Goldust versus Stardust, or Miz versus Mizdow. You know, this was a Raw segment, and it belonged on Raw. It did not belong really on WrestleMania. And also, this segment is why I disagree with the handshake at the end of Triple H Sting, because Triple H then talks smack to Sting. If he would have not mentioned Sting at all, then I would not care about the handshake at all. I would not care, and I would say that was a good moment. But because of this, I disagree with that handshake spot. So then we get The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt. Not a bad match. 2 stars. 2 stars. Undertaker won like I figured he would, because I don't think they'd have him lose at 2 WrestleManias, especially since to preserve the streak being broken, you can't have Taker lose again at WrestleMania, honestly. You can't. Because once that happens and there's someone else that broke the streak, then Lesnar breaking it becomes irrelevant. So, I think this was an okay match. It was back and forth. But honestly, yeah, Bray Wyatt, as good as he is on the microphone, if he can't win big matches, then all he's going to be for is purposes of putting on great promos. But the only real big match he's ever won was his feud with Chris Jericho. That's the only real thing he's ever came out the better of since last year's WrestleMania. But, like I said, okay match, 2 stars. So then we get the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns that eventually turned into a triple threat match. Lesnar Reigns was okay for what we were getting at the point. You know, Lesnar delivered 4 F5s to Reigns. Reigns busted Lesnar open, gave 3 Superman punches and 2 spears to Reigns. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, they were booking Reigns a lot like they booked Cena originally, having him getting out of 2 F5s. Now, granted, he had gotten hit with 3 F5s at the time, but Lesnar did not pin after the first F5. But, you know, at least, you know, they made it to where Reigns kept getting beat up, and he kept coming back for more. That can, in theory, work. So, but, of course, the finish, or at least, you know, so eventually, after a while, when both Brock and Roman Reigns are beat up, Seth Rollins music hits, Seth runs out, he cashes in Money in the Bank and makes it a triple threat match. So then, after, you know, curb stomping Lesnar, Reigns goes to try to do something to Lesnar again. Lesnar catches him, wants to F5 him. Reigns spears him, and then Rollins hits the curb stomp on Reigns and pins Reigns for the 1-2-3, thus winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and I believe becoming the first cash-in at WrestleMania. It's not the most successful cash-in, but I know it's the first cash-in at WrestleMania. At least I think. I know it's the first successful cash-in at WrestleMania, if not the first cash-in in general at WrestleMania. So ultimately, I think the WWE made the right decision here, because you pay Rollins off for being probably the top heel in the company last year, 2014, and justify his heel turn and joining the Authority in the first place by him being the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Okay? You still protect Lesnar because he looked like a beast and he was not pinned. And in some cases, like I said, you make it to possibly where you could get the fans back in Reigns' favor. Because if you want my opinion, Reigns proved that he can go with Brock Lesnar too. I admit I've never seen Fastlane, so I don't know what he did against Daniel Bryan. But I know here, he obviously, you know, he felt that he could go with a guy like Lesnar. So let's see what he can do with a guy like Rollins, which I think is going to be the most logical step for Rollins. Eventually will be a feud of him and Reigns. We'll probably at Extreme Rules, unless that involves Lesnar too, and you get a triple threat match all the way through with Extreme Rules thing. So, yeah, I actually give this entire thing 3.5 stars, because honestly, I think the booking decision they had to make was the right one. Because Reigns winning would not have pleased anybody. Lesnar winning, while it would have justified him re-signing I think that would have made people mad because the championship wouldn't be around constantly. So I think Seth was the right decision here to go with. Because honestly, Seth's earned it more than anybody over the past year. And like I said, you had to justify him joining the 40 in the first place. So, yeah. All in all, this was a very good WrestleMania. Much better than I think anyone expected, and I'm going to say it was much better than WrestleMania 30, which wasn't even a bad show per se, but this one just topped the bottom minus the Diva match. In fact, if you took that out, I'd say you have a near-perfect show with this show. If you took the Divas match off, you have and just had 6 matches on this 4-hour card, which has still been two little matches. You would have had a near-perfect show. So I was actually quite impressed with WrestleMania 31. And I think the WWE will top themselves next year for WrestleMania 32. Because Vince wants that indoor attendance record WrestleMania 3 sets. He wants it back. And he's going to a stadium that he knows he can get it back with. Because remember, I think the NBA All-Star Game only broke it by like 3,000 or so people or something. I'm not real sure. But anyway, if you like the video, like button is down there, subscribe button is down there, and thank you for watching. Bye.